Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel, another episode of Internal in a Nutshell, where we examine important concepts and ideas of internal Chinese martial art using all sorts of perspectives and angles and make them as simple as possible. So firstly, I'd like to welcome Eric back into the channel. He's been absent for a little while. Well, so as today's title suggests, we're going to examine a children's game that actually encapsulates a very important essence of internal martial art. And this game is basically the one where you slap your hand. I'm not sure how many of you have played this while you were a kid. Have you played this?
Yeah, kind of.
Like in primary school, high school, college?
Yeah, well, it's mainly during high school, but younger high school years, like junior high, that kind of thing. Not so much of senior high.
Yeah, I also played this from high school, I think. So for those of you that, just in case some of you don't know what this game is, basically the two person take out their hands, so the one at the bottom you come on top, and then slap the guy's hand on top, and if he misses, then you switch around. Right? That's essentially the game. So it's quite simple and straightforward. Now, how does this game connect to internal martial art? Well, there's a couple of things that are important here. Right? Firstly, you can't telegraph. Right? So for example, if we have a hand here and I do this, right, it's going to move away. So the first idea of this game is that you have to minimize your motion as efficient as possible. So you don't want to do this to someone. If I want to do this, you can take it away. I want to be here, right? Like as close, as economical as possible with the motion. I can have time to react. And secondly, you kind of want to slap hard on the person. So obviously, the initial purpose of this game probably isn't to slap the guy's hand really hard, but when we were playing it back in school, the whole idea, the whole fun part of it is to hit someone else's hand so hard, eventually his hand goes red. And that's actually the challenging part, right? It's not hard to just hit someone like this the whole time and be really fast about it. It is harder to do this and still hurt the guy's hand. Now, I'm not saying that when you're playing this game, that's what you should do, but that is what actually correlates with internal Chinese martial art. It's how to make the motion as economical and as less telegraphing as possible and still exert a lot of force. So, we're going to quickly play this game. So, put it away when you notice. Okay, alright. Right, so that's pretty much how it goes. So in order to hit someone hard while having economical motion, you have to basically relax. Okay, it's the counterintuitive thing. If you are tense, then it doesn't work. In fact, not only do you have to relax your arm, you have to relax your whole body. And in a split of a moment, you have to kind of turn your hand and then drop the weight down. Right? I mean, obviously, I'm doing it very exaggerated now. But so first of all, you can't do it when your hands are tense. So also move away when you notice. You see that is too late. So you can't hit somebody like this. It has to be here. But during the small motion, how are you going to generate power? So you basically have to, as this comes, drop your weight, right? Drop your arms and reach the relaxed sinking stage. So that's how you are able to hit with force while still being able to do that. So how does this translate to internal martial art? Well, firstly, internal martial art is, a lot of it is about that initial contact, which is pretty much like this, right? So this is slightly different between this and what we usually perceive as combat, and especially sparring. Now obviously I'm not saying that sparring is not important. You have to learn how to spar before you can fight or self-defense. But there are some fundamental differences between a self-defense situation and the actual sparring. Right? So with sparring, both partners are ready. We know we're going to do it, and then we usually have our hands up. So we are in a prepared situation, and we're dealing with someone who's already got his guards up, and we go from there. Self-defense, however, suddenly happen like that, right? Very suddenly someone will have to say, I'm gonna smash you, get ready. That won't know what happened, right? They usually, a conflict just escalates, and before you know it, someone might try to sucker punch you, or vice versa, right? If you feel threatened by someone, you don't have to give them warning. You just, sucker punch him. Obviously, depending on what you live, the laws might be different. Maybe in some cases, if you hit somebody else first, you're gonna get sued. So you have to, take your own discretion on that. But the idea is that in a real life conflict, things can just happen. You don't get ready. Again, this is not to say that sparring is not useful, right? There are people who basically bashes sparring and say, that's not like real combat. That's actually not correct. If you can spar really well, you have a far better chance of defending yourself on the street or in any other kind of situation. What I'm trying to say here is that there is some difference when you are fighting in a sparring situation, fighting in a ring, than if there's something happening in the real world. And unlike boxing, Muay Thai, all of that, MMA, again, not saying that they're bad or anything, they're great stuff, but there's a slight difference in terms of the purpose, right? Because those sports are designed to be fighting in a ring, so they're designed to start off with the hands protected, and they're fighting someone who's ready to protect themselves. Whereas Chinese martial arts, especially Zheng martial art, was designed with the idea that you try to sucker punch somebody or get sucker punched by somebody. Therefore, they almost want to make a trap, whereas that first motion you do need to be as undetectable as possible. And if you can succeed with that, you basically pave your way to an easy success or easy win when it becomes a self-defense situation. To put this into a better context, let me give you an example, right? My Wuxing Tongbei master, Master Chong, this happened maybe like 10, 20 years ago. He had a squabble with a Tai Chi master. And the Tai Chi master, unlike those ones you see now, is actually pretty decent at fighting. So eventually they decided to have a go. And what the Tai Chi master did was, so they squared off, and the Tai Chi master did this. A very slow rising of the hand, almost like when you're doing a Tai Chi starting position. Okay? So he does that, and most of you probably now going to wonder, what's the point of that? Why he's doing so slow, right? Why he's doing this, you could just hit him in the face. But here's the thing: when he's doing this, he's actually creating a trap. So basically, he's slowly forcing your hand to react to him. Well, the reason he's going very slow is that at the moment he's actually ready for anything that you're gonna do, right? It's almost like if you're in the motion, like if I'm doing something relatively fast, then it's much harder to change halfway. It's just like if you're running and you want to suddenly turn, it's impossible, right? It's due to momentum and the force of motion, which is why he does it really slow, so that at any given moment he's able to respond to whatever the other guy is doing, and really he's raising his hand is almost like to force him to respond to his hand. And of course, if someone try to respond to his hand, then he will basically make the appropriate adjustment and hit them. So it's like a trap. It's like a bait, right? He's baiting Master Chong. And that, from this you can actually see at least how some Tai Chi lineage actually deals with combat. It's like they set up a bait. And obviously, by the time if you don't respond and his hand is coming, then he might just hit you. But there are various ways that this thing can evolve into. It's almost like those old Western, movies and stories where two guys square off with a gun, right? They don't just take out their gun from this position, they keep it in their holster, and then they shoot like that. It's almost squaring off like that. So internal martial arts fighting is very similar to, the old Wild West where they square off with their guns. Whereas, modern sparring and combat sport is more like the modern military people with guns, right? They come up like this already, and they have to take cover and then have technical things where to lower the target, etc. So it becomes more tactical. But old days, these two guys and they just always like supposedly they walk and they count and they shoot. It's almost like that. That's how Chinese internal martial art originally was designed to fight. So during that incident where this master slowly raised his hand, what Master Chong did was he also slowly raised his hand, but really slow, wasn't extremely slow. and just as the hand were about to touch, punch gonna hit his hand. And then as he hit his hand, he hit right in the face, and the guy fell over. Not because the hit was really hard, but because of the sudden fright. He does this, and he tried to move back. So as he's moving back, following the force, but the Chong hit him. He actually fell over, and that ended the challenge or duel or whatever you want to call it. And this basically illustrates this whole concept why this is very similar to playing this game, because you start off with nothing, and then the power comes out almost like comes out of nowhere. By nowhere, I don't mean it's chi or anything mythical. It's just that there's no one up, right? The hand, it just hit like that. And before the guy can realize, he gets a shock there, and the next thing is the hand already goes for the face. So that's the one example, real life example of how these things works. For example, if the Tai Chi master met someone that's lesser experienced, than Master Chong, what most likely would happen is, he will write he will write his hand, and then the other guy will maybe try to come out with a strike immediately, and what happens is then he will just pick it up from here and then hit him, because he's actually waiting for you to do something, and then he can adjust. And if somebody comes and then try to touch his hand, but not in a very sudden way, right? Like if you just come up and then try to deal with the hand, then he'll just come back up and hit you. So those are ways that he is experienced at dealing with. But what he wasn't experienced at dealing with is somebody who actually also comes really slow, and just as he's about to touch, suddenly hit him. He didn't have the reflex to judge or to foresee that happening, right? Because it was not telegraphed at all. So this is a very important part of internal martial art. A lot of the high-level masters from back in the day, if you read the description and the stories that people tell, of course some of them are over-exaggerated, but a very common theme is that they often end the fight or the challenge very soon, in a couple of seconds, usually with one combo, 3 moves. And when that happens, it's always a very clear thing, right? Basically, they will be doing one thing and suddenly the one guy would fall off or fall out or get hit in the face. It's not something that gets dragged out. Now that's not to say if you drag out the sparring it is bad. It's just to say that in those environments, the type of duel that they engage in is slightly different in nature. They are more like trying to both have their hands down or doing something slow and suddenly surprise a guy than having 2 persons get ready to fight like this. So would this concept actually work in the modern sparring context? Probably not as well, because he's already having his hands up, my hand's already here. It's very hard to surprise him. I mean, obviously, you still want to throw strikes that are not telegraphed. You don't want to do this. But I think there's much less opportunity to sucker punch someone when his guard are up, okay? Which is why this isn't that ideal for modern combat sport or sparring kind of context. However, in the real life, I would argue that there are still some values in doing this. For example, if somebody come up to you and and he's like trying to cause trouble, obviously, again, check with the country's law, see if that's actually legal. But what I could do is I could just stand here, and then the moment I feel like you just hit him right in the face, right? Instead of pick up your hand, and when you do so, then he knows you're gonna do something, or telegraph a punch from here. Instead, I just stand here, watch him, and then hit him right across the face, and then and then do the combo or whatever you wanna do. So in that case, that still have a value, or I could still. I've done this in the past actually. You can kind of distract the person with a hand, stop coming forward. And then you want him to touch that hand. And when you do, then you're hitting someone else. Or when you do, you come around, right? As he touches here, you come through there and you hit him. So setting up a trap for someone to respond to. So that can still work in the modern context, in the self-defense or everyday life situation. But the hard thing here is to be able to hit hard while not telegraphing, right? And to do that, you have to have internal mechanics, right? The compression, expansion, spiral, depending on the motion you do, relax, sinking, force, all of those are important. Anything you want to talk about, add in this part?
No.
Is this concept kind of?
Yeah. Well, actually, there's the main reason why I know about you,
Right.
Why we stopped playing this game
Okay.
at junior high level is because it's game.
Why is it game?
Because we're touching hands.
Dude, seriously?
And I don't know about you, right?
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you know the game inside out, right?
Uh-huh.
You're supposed to look at the guys in the eyes.
Okay.
Because you can't see, the rule of thumb is that you need to maintain eye contact.
Oh, okay.
And
We
that-
don't have that rule.
Well, yeah. Well,
I see.
Because the thing is, it's supposed to be a test of courage and guts. So
Okay.
it's just like a Western square off, right?
Uh-huh.
You look at the guy in the eye, you don't look at him in the voice. Although you're supposed to, tactically speaking, right? But this is an emotional thing, so
Okay.
apparently. So
Okay.
touching hand and maintaining eye contact, we stopped a long time.